Angolan President João Lourenço begins a 3-day state visit to Algeria, a journey rooted in decades of shared liberation struggle and common purpose. From Algeria's decisive support for Angola's independence to today's strategic alignment in energy, security, and African integration, this visit marks a new chapter. Join us for this coverage on All 24 News Special. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition. Angola and Algeria are writing a fresh page in a long story of brotherhood. But before we bring in our guests, here's a report by Zara Ferjani on the decades of alliance that have shaped this partnership. After that, we come back to the discussion.
He came to Algeria as a head of state, but for Angola, this visit carries the weight of history, because long before Luanda and Algiers became strategic partners, they were bound by a shared struggle. In the 1960s, Algeria opened its doors to the popular movement for the liberation of Angola. From Algiers, Agostinho Neto and other independence figures organized, trained, and defended the dream of a free Angola. Algeria offered political backing, military assistance, and a diplomatic platform at a time when anti-colonial movements across Africa were fighting to be recognized. That chapter helped shape a relationship built not only on diplomacy, but on memory, a relationship that survived well beyond the liberation era. Today, Algeria and Angola continue to defend many of the same principles on the African stage: respect for sovereignty, rejection of foreign interference, and the belief that African crises require African solutions. Within the African Union, both countries often find themselves aligned on major continental issues, including support for the Sahrawi cause and calls for greater African independence in global decision-making. But this visit is not only about politics or history. It also reflects a growing push to strengthen economic ties between two major African energy producers seeking a stronger role on the continent. Trade exchanges remain modest for now, with Algerian exports to Angola reaching around $1.33 million in 2024, according to international trade data. Yet both sides are looking for beyond those figures. Over the past 2 years, the two countries have signed around 20 cooperation agreements in sectors ranging from energy to investment, while launching an Algerian-Angolan business council aimed at boosting long-term economic cooperation. As Africa redefines its place in a changing world order, Algeria and Angola appear determined to move forward together, building on decades of political trust while turning their partnership toward new strategic and economic ambitions.
All right, let's bring in our panel to unpack the strategic significance of the President Lourenço's visit. Joining us from Angola is Mr. King Gila Ibo, an economist from Luanda. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Ibo.
Good morning, Karim. Good morning, all that are seeing us at this moment.
Thank you. And from USA is Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Associate Dean and Professor of International Studies at California State University from Los Angeles. Hello there, Professor, and thank you for joining us. Well, we can't hear you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, but we'll fix that and get back to you. And from USA as well is Mr. Mohammed Chris Sassi, a geopolitical observer and financial analyst from New York. Hello, sir, and thank you for accepting our invite. Thank you. And from France is Mr. Rafiq Tamghari, geopolitical and economic analyst, president of the Amir Abdel Qadir Circle from Paris. Good to see you with us, Mr. Rafiq.
Thank you so much, Karim, for invitation, and all my best regards to all the guests.
Thank you indeed. And let's start with the historical and political foundations that make this visit far more than protocol. So, Mr. Kinjila Ibu, from Luanda, how do Angolans today view Algeria's role during the independence struggle and the reconstruction years? And does that memory feed into the political trust we are seeing now?
Karim, seeing Angolan people don't have the image Algeria has a diplomatic partner, but we saw Algeria like a country that helped us, that motivates the big movement for the independence. The ties between Angola and Algeria starts on independence movement that help to fight for the independence. Algeria became independent first than Angola, and this movement motivated Angolan people to fight for his independence. Has the like we saw and the news that we saw before. Agostinho Neto visited Algeria so many times to learn how to fight for the independence, and then this kind of relation starts a long time. That's why Algeria today is a country that Angola needs to continue to learn and to have a strong ties, not only on political areas, but on economic too.
Mm-hmm. And now let me move to Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Dr. Hamoud, from an international relations perspective, how have Algeria and Angola managed to remain so closely aligned politically over 5 decades despite major shifts in the global order?
Yes, I could not get a chance to hear our guest from Angola, but so if I repeat, my apologies. What he said. I think the first one is to look at how Algeria and Angola relationship have been rooted in anti-colonial movements. Algeria, which Nelson Mandela labeled or called the Mecca of revolutionaries, helped or played a role in training the Angolan revolutionary leaders. Zahra's report there shows clearly the leaders of MPLA that were fighting for a united Angola and away from the other two organizations that were linked to outside powers and which were leading a movement that was not that nationalistic. So from the start, you have this share of historical anti-colonialism that translated into similarities in taking anti-colonial position in the new system order through the several years. The Cold War and past the Cold War, Angola and Algeria share a lot of similar position on the issue of Palestine, and most notably on the issue of the Western Sahara. In addition to this, both countries share, because of the history, share common principles. The call or the fight to always have for an independent Africa, and Africa taking its control of its natural resources. The support for a non-alignment movement, one that would play a positive role, constructive role in leading instructions, in leading the world to a better. And then you have several other sort of similarities. where both countries have shown similarities in how they contribute to resolving conflicts internationally and voting in similar ways on platforms such as United Nations General Assembly and several other organizations. It is this kind of relationship that made this relationship last so long, and now with this kind of strategic initiative, it is there for a longer time.
Mm-hmm. And now moving on to Mr. Mohammed Krissasi. Mr. Mohammed, both countries defend common positions on decolonization, sovereignty, and the right to self-determination, including on Western Sahara, for example. How do those shared stances strengthen their voice in African and international forums, according to you?
Well, the two countries share the position on decolonization, as Dr. Salhi was saying before, the sovereignty, and also the right to self-determination that give both countries, Algeria and Angola, a greater diplomatic weight because they present a consistent and a principal bloc on issues that remain highly sensitive across Africa and in what you call now the global south. Their alignment, for example, on Western Sahara, in particular, reinforce sovereign form of influence. Now you have, with both countries, a greater credibility because they joined together in African diplomacy by constantly supporting anti-colonial principle and internationally recognized right to self-determination. Both states, Algeria and Angola, fight for all this past, I should say, 30 years with the fidelity in their fight. Yes, the both states, they defend the historical value of the African liberation movement, and this resonates strongly with institutions such as the L'Unité Africaine, African Union, where many members states emerged from colonial rules, as Algeria from France, as Angola from the Portuguese colonial esclavagism, I should say, in their country. Now, the second thing is it gives a stronger collective bargaining power within this institution and across the international relationship, because the country coordinate their position. They amplify their diplomatic leverage in multilateral forum, including the United Nations. Angola was always hand to hand with Algeria. And of course, on what you call the non-alignment movement and South-South cooperation platform. So consistently, as I said, between principle and foreign policy, the support also, of course, I cannot, not talk about that for the Western Sahara. That's always Angola was present with the Sahrawi, on the side of Algeria, because it was the same fight for the self-determination, for the freedom of the country. For example, Western Sahara is the only country in Africa that's still under the rules of an occupant power, which is Morocco. Then, as I said, Angola and Algeria enhance the leadership in Africa. They advocate cause linking to the liberation and sovereignty of this movement. Both countries reinforce their image as influential political actor with Africa, and they can increase their ability to shape the continental debate on peace, on security, and regional integration, and reform of the global governance institution. Now, all this, of course, the causality will be the promotion of a multi-power international order. Their cooperation is an example, and we have to thank Angola for their stand with Algeria. As I said, our cooperation with Angola give more balanced international system in which smaller country, ex-colony, became in the concert of the nation, and they became a stronger voice because of the example of the association between Angola and Algeria. And the visit of the president of Angola is not only present for trade and business, now he is also to be a mirror of what you can do when you stand together for the fight against the colonialism and the ex-colony, and to get free of their mammies on all the riches of Angola, for example, of Algeria. And I'm talking about not only about the petrol, specifically in Angola, is not only the petrol. Voilà what I would like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed Krisasi. And now let me include Mr. Rafiq Temghari. Mr. Rafiq, this visit comes as external powers compete for influence in Africa. What message does such a solid Algiers-Luanda axis send to those outside the continent, according to you?
According to me, it's very important, this visit. So first, we can talk about the similar data between Angola and Algeria. The population of Algeria is 47 million. The population of Angola is 40. They are producing petrol, gas. We are producing petrol and gas. They have phosphate, they have gold. The GPD is completely different. So they need first the knowledge of Algeria. And this visit for me sounds a very clear message. Africa is no longer merely a space of competition. I mean, not only for external power, but they have to improve the internal power. Let's talk about the business between African countries. You know, Karim, if we talk about the percentage of this internal business inside Africa, maximum is 12%, comparing to Europe, which is 60%. So actually, for me, the axe Algiers to Luanda reflects a new African dynamic. I mean, there is a sort of complementarity. There is a mutual effort to grow up this partnership. So for me, there is two, let's say, real major power with a strong credibility, because the both country, as they said, the gentleman before, they have a real concrete policy regarding all the colonization. Also, this rapprochement between these two countries, it's a demonstration that this is the future of Africa, to develop this power south-south. A lot of African country that are building this new power, and there are a lot of let's say examples that we can talk about it. I think actually a lot of young African, they get this knowledge to build Africa by Africans, and this strong power that the Africans get. As I said, usually the real let's say the real power of Africa is not petrol, is not gas, is the population, and especially the youth. I mean, there are a lot of young population. They have to work with them and they have to listen to them. And I think that all the Africans, let's say presidents, understand this topic. So the future is in Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Rafiq. Now let me bring back our Angolan guest, Mr. Ibo. Mr. Ibo, let's turn to the economic dimension here. Both Angola and Algeria are hydrocarbon giants. So how can the two countries move beyond exporting raw materials and build perhaps joint value chains and industrial diversification?
Yeah, let me start with this. Angola and Algeria are big countries in Africa, but they can be big in the world if they work together. Angola and Algeria face a very similar strategic challenge. Both both economies have been heavily dependent of hydrocarbons, but for if both understand that can be resilient, they need to diversificate their economies. If they work together, as I said, they can be strong and bigger than they are. Algeria today, I think that it can work together on diversification with Angola, because Angola is facing this goal to diversify the economy, because Angola have a hydrocarbons industry, and Algeria's too. But this can be a big opportunity. Is a big opportunity to build an industrial ecosystem around the energy. They can now move move forward to renewable energy, and I think Angola and Algeria have conditions for this. Not only produce gas, petrol and gas, and can move onto the renewable energy. One important area, I think that there is also room for joint investment is in logistics and maritime infrastructure. Angola is building the Lubito corridor, and I think if there is some infrastructure, engineering service, and energy technology, and the training together, I think that these two countries, it can be bigger than they are now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Ibo. Now, let me bring back Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Dr. Hamoud, as we heard from our Angolan guest, there are a lot of areas that could be exploited between our two countries to develop a lot of, let's say, production outside hydrocarbon. And here we are gathering that education and technical training feature prominently on the agenda. So from your vantage point, how can knowledge exchange between the two nations accelerate the broader development goals?
That is really huge for both countries. In matters of education, as also we have seen with other countries, you create human value in developing a relationship that goes beyond the formalities. In other words, when you foreign students come in to get degrees from Algeria or vice versa, go into Angola, those are values are beyond, so they stay forever. And it could amplify when students take leadership position, as we have seen in some cases in some African countries. That was sort of one of the strengths or the reason that relationship grow very stronger. So definitely in area of education, that could be, there is a lot of work there. Currently, if I understand it very clear, if I understand it, that cooperation on education is in the making, and it could be stronger in students exchange, for example, or research or other area. The other issue about technical programs or technical training, that also fits very well with the strategies that the two countries have adopted. As you are fully aware, Karim, and our audience, And as it was mentioned before, Angola is rich in oil and a lot of natural resources, one of the biggest country in Africa. And Angola, like Algeria, has adopted a diversification policies, a diversification that stays away or not relying just on oil and hydrocarbon, moving beyond that. And I think that's where this idea of looking into ways how to exchange expertise and developing training programs in technical areas, it would be a strategic asset where the two countries can achieve goals or strategic goals that are in line with what they believe that a strong country must have certain kind of independence, economic independence strongly, because that helps in the decision making. When countries are tight economically, they tend to look some kind of their political leverage. Algeria understood this from the very first days of its independence, and Angola has been doing that as well. So that technical expertise, training in that area is very, very important. And this is a reason why you have institutions like the Council of that the countries have created, the more than 20 agreements that they have had. That's where sort of those technical expertise can be pursued and implemented to achieve the kind of agreements that the two countries have had.
Perfect, Dr. Hamoud. Now let me bring back Mr. Sassi. Mr. Sassi, perhaps what we have been discussing earlier was how to shift away and diversify the economy. But then there is an opportunity here amidst the global fluctuation in the prices of oil products and fuel. And as you know, global energy markets are really under pressure. As a financial analyst, Mr. Sassi, what concrete opportunities do you see for Angola and Algeria to coordinate perhaps inside OPEC and to turn energy turmoil into something maybe of a mutual advantage?
Yeah, to answer the question, so just on the point of OPEC. OPEC is in under tremendous pressure. Why? Because OPEC is depending mainly on the country of the GCC, and with the example, for example, of the United Arab Emirates that now they want to break up from OPEC. This is a beginning. I don't think it's going to be the OPEC that we knew before, and therefore we have here you have a beautiful, a good opportunity for an economical dimension toward African economic independence, away from all this group that want to again and again take all the riches of Africa, thinking that they can still do it, and we know what they try to do in the GCC country, for example. Now let's go back to Angola and Algeria. Yes, as I said, it's an economical dimension, it's an economical opportunity for Angola and Algeria. They are both major energy producers. Angola is leading oil exporter in the sub-Saharan country, Africa, and Algeria is a major natural gas and oil producer in North of Africa. Already you have these two poles that can be together and they can be very, very powerful. And together they could support a continental strategy focused on the African industrialization, on the energy integration, on the intra-African trade. You have a country that in 2050, I think the projection is going to represent 24% of the trade in all the world. It's enormous. And this is where we can take the lead with two countries like Angola and Algeria, that they suffer the colonization and they get back of this dependence of the quote-unquote Occident and ex-colonizer. But now the key framework to make it working in the future, we have to go to the African Continental Free Trade Area that I'm sure Mr. Sarhi can talk about it better than you, to create the new world order for us in Africa. Africa for African. Why should I call Europe or why should I call America when I have the expertise? Like Algeria, we have a precedent experience with Tanzania, and it was also an experience with the expertise of Algeria. And instead of calling the American, we did a partnership with Tanzania. I would like to see the same, and I think it's going to come with Angola. Why? Because the strategic objective will be to reduce the dependence of the country that the continent that I just named, but also to alliance to stop the importation of manufactured goods and do it within Africa, and then you can do it. And also for Angola and Algeria, we could encourage the African own transport corridor. For example, Algeria can have the corridor to go to the Atlantic through Angola. And then you have the continental banking. You have also to call about banking and payment system and stop depending of the CFA of France that is bleeding the country in Africa. We can do it with Angola and Algeria. We can be that example. And then you have, of course, the Pan-African Industrial Zone and the sharing of the technology and education cooperation that my predecessor was talking about. For example, we have it was said by my predecessor, the Algerian industrial and engineering experience. You have this capacity that could complement Angola natural resource and Atlantic access. Angola could become a logistic gateway linking Southern Africa to Atlantic trade route, and Algeria could connect, as I reiterate what I said before, North Africa to Sahel and Mediterranean market. And this is the future that can see. And I give you back the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Sassi. And now let me bring Mr. Tim Gari now. Mr. Tim Gari, we're talking about the signing of nearly 20 cooperation agreements and memorandum of understanding. What must be done, according to you, to ensure this political will to translate rapidly into something tangible like investment and real trade flows, not just signatures?
Of course, we are very happy about the signature of this more than 20 agreements, but this is the political side. Let's say if we talk about the real function of this agreement about the both country, we need to understand the meaning first, and we need also to study what's the essential atmosphere, what is what are the condition to success this agreements. So for me, there are several points that we can discuss. One of them is that we need a real, strong and operational follow-up. So there is no mechanism for the moment to join this monitoring committees. For me, we have to have a clear calendar. We need to achieve this target. We need to have this objective, a clear objective. What is the calendar between these two countries? First, one of the points that we need to make some reforms, because today Africa needs some let's say the doctor just talked about the banking facilities, so we need to reform all this financial system between the African let's say countries, and also about the investment. We need also to talk about the transport, the connectivity. Algeria is doing a great job with let's say the road from the north to the south. The Algerian president Abdelmajid Tebboune talked also about the train connection between the north and the south, and it's very important with the other project about the pipeline, etc. So we need to have this connectivity, and also if we can talk about the custom simplification, because there are a lot of taxes between the African country, even that we joined the ZLECAf, which is the free zone about the African country. We need also to give some warranties to the investors. I mean, to have this clear pictures about the investing in this different country. Also, another point for me, it's very important to, if we talk about the private sector, it should be a business that we can increase more. It will not be only about government to government, but also about all the private factories and business. They need really to create a sort of a platform, B2B. I mean, how we can exchange, how we can do a sort of data about all the clients, the markets, the suppliers, and we need really to have this clear picture. Why buying from Europe if we can find the same products in Africa, and sometimes several times it's with better price. So we need to upgrade a little bit all the numbers, and all these points of all these pillars. I think if we can respect them, we are sure that we became a sort of a transformation of the economic of all this country, and it could be not only symbolic diplomatic side, but it will be a real success story about the business and the economic between all these African countries.
Thank you, Mr. Rafiq. And since you talked about the intra-African trade and the free trade zone, let me include now Mr. Ibo. Let's talk about the continental picture, Mr. Kinjela Ibo. How can Algeria-Angola partnership become perhaps an engine for genuine African integration, especially within the framework of the African continental free trade area?
So let me. My previous said that why Angola or African countries import the products from Europe if we can buy here maybe with better price and quality. We have here in Africa products that we have better quality. On the agricultural sector, we have here better quality, and if African country can collaborate, we can be strong than some another countries around the world. Going through to your question, the Algeria and Angolan partnership became highly significant for African integration because it connects North Africa and Southern Africa politically. It can connect politically, economically, and strategically. It's important to say it. Economically, one of Africans' standing weakness has been limited intra-African connectivity. Despite the continent's enormous market potential, we have here enormous market potential, but we haven't connectivity. If we had the connectivity, maybe we will see the economic growing faster than is today. That's why we need this connectivity between African countries. Maybe in this we saw so many documents that was assigned. It's important to provide the connectivity between the African country, maybe between Angola and Algeria. It will be great to be able drive by road, maybe by ferry, Angola to Algeria. within the framework of the African continental free trade area, both countries can help reduce that fragmentation by promoting trade corridors, transport infrastructure, financial cooperation, and industrial complementarities across the region that historically trade more with external markets than with each other. That's why I think that it's important to have this connectivity.
Perfect.
Algeria brings strong industrial and energy capacity for North Africa, while Angola offers strategic Atlantic access and growing regional influence in Southern Africa. Together, they can support the creation of African supply chain rather than isolated national market. We saw today African countries look like isolate market, but they can be only one market. That if they works like one market, will be the continent will be strong, not only politically but economically. It will be able. The continent will be able to have more products going north to West Africa, and the companies maybe will have a big market to provide the product, to have more consumers, and maybe to have more how can I say it in English?
The point is clear, yes. The point is clear, Mr. Ibo. Let me now bring back Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Angola has earned a mediation role in the Great Lakes and the Great Lakes region, I should say. And in light of this, how might Algeria support such African solutions to African problems if we come to talk about the political or geopolitical issues the continent is facing? And what does it, or what does this bilateral trust bring to continental peace and security?
I think from another perspective, and this is the major thing in this relationship, bringing African solutions, using African solution to resolve African problems is essential. Let's put it in the context of big powers. You have the United States, whose interest has been solely restricted to oil and security and armament of one party against another. We know very much by declaration by the American administration's official that African oil is strategic to the United States, a value that is labeled only to the Gulf, to the oil of the Gulf. When you look at the long history of Europe has made it a point that those colonial ties are to remain, and that sort of patriarchal projection or bossy relationship continues for years. And we've seen how the people of Africa in recent years have fought to change that image, particularly in the region of the Sahel. You look at it in terms of other, even in the academia, and in other sort of, in the security area, Africa still be viewed as divided between black and white Africa. The State Department, for example, does not include Northern Africa as part of its geographical distribution when it comes to looking at the region. So what we are looking at is entering into an area where member countries of African countries like Africa, like Angola and Algeria, with its national reconciliation policies, in work in Libya, in Mali, and other areas. This is putting the African solution, addressing the problems of Africa from an African perspective. It fits very well with both strategies of the countries. How can Angola, or for that matter, Algeria, benefit from each other? Algeria has long history of a history that is a successful record in mediation and negotiations, in fighting terrorism, and in national reconciliation. The very foundation of what Angola is doing in the Greater Lakes is in line with what Algeria has done. So from that perspective, that could be beneficial to Angola, exchanging ideas with the Algerians of how to apply those to the conflicts in those areas. Second, Algeria brings a huge prestige in terms of its historical power in the Africa, credibility in the international world, particularly with recent experience in the United Nations Security Council. That's also add power to the role that Angola could play in resolving or helping resolve some of the problems in the Greater Lake.
And since you mentioned the UN Security Council, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, and we're really running out of time, let me include Mr. Mohammed Chris Sassi with this question related to the UN Security Council. Mr. Sassi, both countries push for UN Security Council reform and a more assertive African voice. Do you really see this visit as a stepping stone, perhaps, toward a stronger collective African bloc in global governance?
I would like to answer with a positive question and say that I am optimistic. Unfortunately, I am not. Africa, in order to fight in the instance of the United Nations, Africa have to learn, number one, to respect itself. If you look what's going on in Africa today, I admire Angola and Algeria stand as a statement to the enduring power of African solidarity. But Libya, Mali, Sudan, Chad, Congo, Sahel, Somalia, Ethiopia, I just name you few of the problems in Africa which have a denominator common. They are killing each other. And here we have Algeria and Angola who try to fight, who try to have trade. You know, the trade with Angola is very, very limited. I think is about 1.5 million for Algeria going there, and for Angola on the other way is about exporting about $140,000. Yes, we have to build slowly, but we have, number one, to consider Africa for the African as our market, and then to look for the stability, and then our voice will be here. But now if you go and you ask for a seat in the Security Council, because Africa is 900 million people. If you take France, if you take America, if you take England, and if you take the last one, I forget one, France, what is the last, the fourth one?
Russia, China.
Russia, exactly. Now, we are more than them. The only one who beat us is China. But because of our passé, because of our some country in Africa, with the chain that they still have with the ex-colonisateur, for example, I cited before the CFA, le franc africain, le Côte d'Ivoire, Sénégal, etc. Why? Why can we not be ours, like we did with the BRICS, for example? Sit down Africa. We are Africa, as I said before, is going to be 25% of the, I say it was the richest now, 25% of the population. They are less than 4. This is the future, and for Africa have the matière première. Why should we not find more cohesion among us? As I said, Libya, Mali, Sudan, Chad, Congo, Sahel, Somalia, Ethiopia, and we have border with this country, when you have a war in the next door of your country, how can people come and invest? Trade is based on security. Trade is based on security to avoid the volatility. And now we didn't understand. I'm sorry to be, but a tree cannot hide the forest. I am Algerian. And always my first question it is, and I'm sorry what I'm going to say, but I have to say it. What is in it for me? That's my question. I am really very proud of the relation that you have of Angola and Algeria. They are 40 million people. We are 40 million people. We struggle against the colonizer. They struggle against the colonizer. But, we have to try not to impose ourselves. We have to try to be the mirror of what can be. Look at Rwanda. What was Rwanda 10 or 15 years ago? Look what it is today. Why? Because they try to always do what is good for them. They stop the importation. They develop their small PME and PME. And they stop the importation. And I'm sorry to be the black sheep of the group.
No, it's fine, because technically what you're saying is that before we look for any kind of cooperation, one needs to focus on themselves and invest with the material they have, and let's say starting with their youth. And since I mentioned the youth, let me give the last question to Mr. Tamgari. Mr. Tamgari, beyond state visits, how can the private sector perhaps, and perhaps civil society and youth in both countries be perhaps mobilized so that this political momentum becomes durable and people-centered cooperation?
Yes, but let me, before just to back to the previous question, I'm more optimistic because I'm definitely sure that actually the most biggest percentage of the population are the young. And the youth, they can do a lot of miracles, and it's completely another mind, because there is the reality, as the doctor said, but there is really another mind that actually the young people, they are trying to change the minds also to be more optimistic. The reality is hard, it's not easy, but also we can do a lot of things in Africa, and this is what all the young people are believing today. But anyway, just to back to your question, I think that there is a real corporation, and that it's not only about the governments, but also it should be linked to the human being, to the human connection. And this one, it's not easy. I mean, we need to create a sort of a permanent bridges between all this country, and especially tonight, today we are talking about the Algerian and Mongolian bridges. So how we can give them all these facilities, how we can help them to advance, how we can put a policy in place. So I think there is several points again to invest, how we can put this academic exchange and give a sort of youth mobility programs. I think that we need to study this corporation. Again, Africa is really big and the greatest, for me, strategic resources in the youth, but we don't need how to use this power. We need really to understand how we can create this power. The civil society also has a real central role for me to play on this situation, and we need to create more knowledge about each other as country. We need to have a dialogue. We need to put in place a sort of educational initiative. We call it in Western country people-to-people diplomacy. So we need really to establish this relationship, and not to be only economic, but also let's say societal, also intellectual. So we need really to create these bridges, and at the end, I think that we really have to believe in the future of all this different models, and especially how we can create this African integration. Again, I think the final word is, as I said, we have to believe on the young people. The youth is our powerful and power for Africa. We have a lot of Africans outside Africa that we can bring them, and they can bring their expertise and the knowledge. And the last point, I think we should be the best ambassador of Africa, because we believe in Africa and we Algerians are African.
Perfect, Mr. Tamgari. Thank you so much for all this analysis. And that is all the time we have for this special coverage of President João Lourenço's visit to Algeria. My thanks goes to Mr. Kenjela Ibo from Luanda. Thank you for joining us again. Dr. Hamoud Salhi from Los Angeles. Thank you. Mr. Mohammed Chris Sassi, I appreciate it. And Mr. Rafiq Tamgari, we are really honored to have you on the show. So as we discussed with our panel, a visit that reaffirms that the ties between two nations are not only about interest, but also about a shared memory of struggle and a common vision for Africa's future. From all of us here at All 24 News, thank you for watching. And until next time, have a good one.